As business owners, entrepreneurs, family men, it's difficult for us to find the time to put together projects like these. Even though it's something we really want to do, unfortunately, taking care of the things we have to take care of comes first. However, because of viewer support for people like you, we're able to continue doing this. Please consider joining our Patreon and supporting the Burn and Return podcast. You're listening to Burn and Return, a weekly 1-hour podcast covering news from the agricultural and turfgrass industries. With the DJ scratch, that means we are live. How the hell is everybody doing? Welcome to another episode of... what is this? Burn and Return. Burn and Return. I'm sorry, I'm out there. My name is Matt. Sometimes I go by the Grass Factor Martin. There was something that I was looking up that I wanted to send to you guys, and I was trying to do that in the midst of all of this as well too, and it was coming out terrible.
I just thought the Spinal Tap found all the acid. That's all,
it did, and it left me all at one time, and it was really really intense there for a second. The kaleidoscope visual effects just always seem to linger real randomly from time to time. All right, I'm back. If y'all are listening for the first time, just so you know, you can listen to this on podcast too, whether it's Spotify or Apple or whatever your flavor is. And the people that are like, man, it's long to sit and watch a video. I get it. Listen to it in podcast form. It's on all your favorite podcast apps. I am making a more concerted effort. I'm trying to get this switched over to Spotify for podcasters. We have been using Podbean. I had been banned from Spotify. It was a mass reporting event that took place a couple years ago, and I got banned from Spotify. And then on a whim, my wife just hit the #1 podcast in the country of Japan, by the way, with her podcast All Day America, which was it was pretty shocking to watch that go from 0 to 100 real fast. But anyway, she uses it, and I was like, for shits and giggles, because it's so much more intuitive than Podbean, a lot more flexibility and being able to manipulate episodes and stuff to make the content more approachable for people that don't want to sit and watch a 3-hour video. I get it, or a 2-hour video. And so anyway, in doing that, I realized I am no longer banned on Spotify. And so I'm gonna try and do that. So whether it's Thursday or it's Burn and Return, you can listen to it in podcast form. If you missed Thursday's episode with Turfology, the first one we did with them, we did an extreme deep dive into chlorotrinellapyl and the other options for armyworms, right? So not just grub control, but also armyworms, and that was a pretty deep dive into that. And then this week, it was all about profitability. I think is the easiest, simplest way to put that. It was, how do you take what you currently do, manipulate it to become as profitable, and so we actually pulled apart their program to a very extreme way, and then put it all back together to be profitable and still generate the types of results that their customer base expects. And so it's fun. It was a lot of fun. And so, of course, if you don't feel like watching the 3-hour video, you can hop on over on podcast in podcast form and listen to it there as well. That out of the way, boys, how was your week? And any good news on the horizon? Y'all got anything good?
No, nothing good. I mean, it's always good, right? I mean, still alive, still breathing, and I don't know, Ray. We've got. Well, here, I will share this. This is good, right? And it's a good segue from what Matt was just talking about with the podcast format, and also with the show. We are coming up on 2 years of sitting here every week, driveling on about this fucking bullshit. Turf. as a group, and it's pretty cool. Plenty of people that hate us, a few people that love us, and that's just fine with us. We're not here to win hearts and minds. We're just here to get together and share our opinions. And so, for that effort, between Thirsty Thursday and Burn and Return, we've created somewhere in the neighborhood of about 600 to 700 hours of content. But we want to ask our loyal listeners if they would be so kind, if they want to share their favorite moments or their favorite episodes. We've got a link right here that our astute producer, J Pink, has developed for us, and we'll have this up. We'll throw the link up in the description, in the video, and also in the podcast show notes. And you can go on there, and for our episode, our upcoming episode, number 69, that will be here in about 3 weeks, we will run these down. We'll chop up what we can, and we'll have a little bit of fun with it. 2 years, pretty cool. A lot of guests, a lot of great conversation, and some weird ass headlines. And Ray, are you ready for the headlines?
Ready as I ever will be. I mean, alarm me. I mean, horrify me. I mean, what else do you do best, Ryan?
I feel like Ray comes in here every week for his dose of reality because his life is just too damn chipper, and he needs us to bring him down back to earth every Sunday night.
Chipper is in wood chipper.
Chipper is in the
like that guy in Fargo.
Yeah, the Moorbark diesel powered. The one that'll just like
without that safety bar. You're not
fudge the safety bar, Ryan. Exactly.
You know what? I always wondered about that. And not to get too morbid here, but this is Death Talk, and if you have been a loyal listener, you'll know that I think we've got, I don't know if we have a streak, but better than 90% of our episodes, we do have some morbid conversation or talk directly about death. Listen, has the safety bar on the chipper hurt more people than it's helped? I mean, do you think, how many people that hit the safety bar would have rather just gone all the way through and forgot about everything forever? I
Habsies, man. Habsies in a wood chipper, by the time you get to it, I mean, at that point, are you not just like, give me a full send? Come on.
Take me,
yeah,
Lord.
It's just reminding me of this, some bad stuff that I've seen. Not human, of course, but, I've seen some not so good things.
What the fuck are we talking about?
God almighty!
Ray's talking about that alternate ending of Thelma and Louise, where they both went through.
I was looking for a bottle of air duster to huff real quick to get through this one.
But seriously,
oh my God, Ray!
I say
anybody got a nanogram scale for the fentanyl?
Yeah, I do actually.
Just use the monument scoop. Be faster than the chipper. Jesus. What? Just all right. You got to clarify this, Ray, because I.
Okay, because when you folks said half
I don't know if you got to clarify this, Ray.
Half of a person. One of my neighbors had this adorable brindle pit bull.
Oh,
I mean, he was just he was just one of the sweetest, friendliest, nicest dogs. Oh. However, he had an intense dislike for cats.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And
the pit bull put a cat into a wood chipper?
No, better.
Oh, no.
Doggy managed to catch the cat and consume exactly half of the cat.
Oh, okay. This is
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I
mean, that is nature is metal. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I thought we were going to, guy calls the tree service over to prune his trees, and also he finds all the neighborhood cats, with a can of tuna.
No.
Yeah,
Steve got real angry about his cat getting eaten and rented a 300 horsepower wood chipper, and that Vermeer went.
Nope, no, nothing like that. But it's just when you said half, I thought, oh no. that so reminds me of Cain and what he did to that cat. Oh,
Really?
Yeah, that is.
man.
Nature is metal. Literally.
Nature is brutal. Nature is brutal. I mean,
Yeah.
that's fact of life. But then, yeah, I mean, that's just when you said half. I thought
so are wood chippers.
Well, I was going to say,
my
listen, all
mind
this,
went
the headline. Yeah, my mind went there too, and the headlines will be a lot better than hearing about a Vermeer eating a pussy. All right, let's go to those headlines. How did
This is
that was more?
just
That
the
was a
news.
pre-show conversation. It really was.
Man, I got real nervous there for a second. I'm not gonna lie. Like I am, but my armpits are in a steady state. It's Adventure River, the water park, is going on in my armpits right now. Fertilizer is unprecedented. Anyway, fertilizer has been one of the hottest topics in agriculture over the past couple of years, as prices and availability have ebbed and flowed, making it a busy time in the industry. The last 12 to 18 months have been completely unprecedented in the number of questions we're getting about fertilizers, especially from outside of the sector. There's been a huge amount of volatility and uncertainty in these markets. Cross said the significant period of price inflation led to some of the volatility, but also a few recent developments contributed. The rise in crop market prices has led to increased demand for fertilizer, and global events play a role as well. Fertilizer markets sit directly between the energy markets and the food markets. That means there is quite a lot of opportunity for disruption, as we've seen in the last 12 months or so, even going back before the war in Ukraine and COVID-era politics. Did I say politics or policies? Sorry. However, despite I guess they're one and the same at this point. However, despite the high prices, Cross said that the idea of a fertilizer shortage in the world is a myth. Josh Linville, the fertilizer analyst with StoneX, said global events are having a significant impact on the U.S. fertilizer markets. Russia stopped exporting natural gas to Europe, which impacted production. When that first started happening, the marketplace said it didn't matter and not that big of a deal because Western and Central Europe only accounts for 5% of the world. 5% of a really big number is still a very big number. Cross noted that demand for nitrogen is often constant despite the price. The major fluctuation comes from other forms of fertilizer. If the price of our crop changes, the nitrogen component in terms of farm level very rarely change. For phosphate and potash, you see a very clear response when crop prices are either stable or lower than normal. Limbaugh added that the states in the Corn Belt, such as Iowa and Illinois, aren't the only ones that will drive the market. They plant corn year over year. We put a lot of, that jumped around. We put a lot of focus building our demand models on the Southern Plains, Northern Plains, and in those fringe acres. Before the ethanol boom, they were CRP or some other crop, and now they're switching to corn. When examining previous fertilizer crunches in 97 and 08, Linville noted production increased to solve those issues. He said it is harder to get some of these production plants back online in this era with constantly changing government regulations. If you go to any investment firm, they want a multi-decade guaranteed investment on their money, but where are you going to put it? Are you going to put it in the U.S.? I wouldn't, because we have a government that seems to not know what it wants to be every 2 or 4 years. It's very difficult to build a brand new facility. And it ends there. And if you can't see this, right, then you are. I'm going to call you a dumbass. I have raised money in the fertilizer industry, and it is one hell of a crapshoot as to which way's up, down, sideways, and side to side. In one instance, you have grants for new fertilizer technology coming on in the United States, and the other sense, you have the anti-fossil fuel industry. Where even during campaign terms, it's, there will be no more drilling in the United States. However, we're approving drilling to resume in Venezuela, and then we're gonna go ahead and open one up in Alaska too. So when it says, and I'm not trying to make this a left or right political thing, but what the point is that the government does not seem to know what it wants to be every 2 to 4 years. That's exactly what's going on. The rhetoric that you're hearing on both sides is creating a lot of uncertainty, and it makes people not really want to put money in this because they don't see a lot of stability or long-term play on it. Now, I will say this, is that with the current rhetoric that we are hearing, is that one of the things I do know is that there are going to be a shit ton of organic plants coming online in the next 2 years. And when I say a shit ton, way more than the market can support. And so I'm here to sit back and watch, and it's one of those things where you find yourself moving away from fertilizer, and you count your blessings, because when you start looking at the size, scope, and scale at which these and I can't get into specifics, but I can say that organic fertilizer is about to turn on in such a big way that there's nowhere near the amount of demand at the prices that are sought in order to keep these things profitable, for it to all be successful. So, we're in a weird time right now, a really weird time, and we're seeing commodity prices at low on urea, for instance, but nobody can buy it at that price, and they're like, I don't understand, if this is what my commodity price is, why the fuck can I land it within this wheelhouse? And they're like, well, markets, right? So, but no, it doesn't make sense. I don't understand. If it's trading at 350, why the hell am I landing it at 650? It doesn't make any sense. Or are you trying to find it on the spot market, right? And everybody's holding inventory from when it was 750, and they're trying to unload it at 650, and you can get it to your door at 800, and you're like, damn it, I don't get it. And that's why typically commodity traders are not actually dealing in the brokering of fertilizer. They're just trading commodities like they do stocks, right? And so, when it's all unrealized gains or losses, that's a whole different wheelhouse than it is when you're actually touching a tangible product and trying to sell at that point. So no shock here. And we'll see how it all shakes out in the wash. I will say that the fuckery we have seen up to this point is likely to continue to trend for at least the next couple of years. And does that mean we're not going to see softening in prices? Hell no. We'll definitely see softening in prices. It's just the volatility that we're seeing behind it is unprecedented, and I think it will continue to be volatile. That any catalyst to move one way or the other, we were going to see big swings in those directions, whatever that may be. Yeah. Y'all have anything else to add to that?
No, jump into that next article because it talks a little bit about.
Let's do this. Yeah. Oh, that's right. I forgot this one was coming up next, and I was actually.
You're good.
Yes, I was intending to segue into this. Why are some ag retailers sitting on high fertilizer prices, making sense of disparity right now? Even though fertilizer and herbicide prices continue to fall, there are signs that decline could continue in the spring. Now the issue is the number of agricultural retailers sitting on high-priced inputs, which are often passed on to farmers. A year ago, they were all climbing out of the wazoo, especially with the Ukraine war. And then all of a sudden, 87% of retailers experienced difficulty sourcing inputs in 2022. Of those, 85% had trouble with herbicide availability. 38% had difficulty sourcing fertilizer. The biggest issue was securing enough glyphosate, with 100% of respondents reporting issues with that particular chemistry. 69% reported difficulty sourcing glufosinate. Yeah, Australia got wrecked in that whole deal. A year later, the story has dramatically changed. Active ingredients are flowing freely from China. Declining natural gas prices are leading to less expensive fertilizer. However, what you're seeing is wholesale Midwest pricing is some of the nitrogen products down 20% since the start of the year. This is really a function of inventory, but also the natural gas price in Europe creating a less worst-case scenario, as well as potentially some of the big buyers sitting out in the market to kind of get a little bit of clarity. He says there's been less of a fall on the phosphate side, but it's still in the double digits. Taylor expects further downside of that market in the coming weeks. The potash market price decline has been more pronounced, with a 20% fall in Midwest potash prices on the retail level. With the sudden shift to prices, it creates a difficult scenario for those retailers sitting on fertilizer prices that are at a much higher level than what is posted today. What this very often means is that kind of overplayed cliche. Who wants to catch the falling knife as the market's coming down? The independent people within that value chain, the farmer, the retailer, the distributor, they don't necessarily want to be taking hold of inventory that they might not then necessarily be able to get the value out of and that they paid for ostensibly. Taylor thinks there's been a front loading of the price decline, with some fertilizer prices looking at a 30% drop since November. You've seen an early fall off in the price, and I think this has just added a little bit more fear. On the nitrogen side, it has just been steeper than a lot of people have thought, and this has been a function, I would say, primarily the weather components and the supply of natural gas in Europe. There's not necessarily anything that anyone can do to legislate for these kinds of weather forecasts or changing in the landscape. So it goes on to talk about, basically some people bought as it was falling, and it's just continued to fall, and now they're holding urea that was at, we'll say, $800 a ton, and now it's at $400 a ton, and they're like, fuck, what do I do with it? And unfortunately, they still got to sell it for whatever they can get out of it, right? Hope that makes sense.
Well, and I think the point to highlight there is that turf markets are in exactly the same position, right? So you're seeing a lot of articles coming out now about, commodity prices are falling and raw material prices falling, all that kind of stuff. But, right, a lot of these retailers are holding on to stuff that is vastly what looks like overpriced, right? In the common vernacular of, okay, hey, we see all these articles, everything like that, but I don't think you're going to see these correct. And I think that's what they're saying, is that it's producers right now, right? That it's in their hands to get these lower price raw materials in, start producing product and selling that back, to retailers, and ultimately, realizing whatever savings is actually, the slack that's in the market, right? So the moral of the story here is, Ray, I don't think we're going to see anything like this in the turf market to respond to commodity prices anytime in the near future.
No, I don't expect it to. It's a matter of, because we have enough inventory of material on the market that was put on the market at the higher price. Sorry, everybody's going to have to eat a bag of dicks. I mean, that's just how it is. And it would be rather naive and disingenuous to then tell your supplier, but urea and potash dropped by so many percent. Well, too bad, because what he has in his warehouse is priced at the prices when that stuff was manufactured, and if it was astronomically stupidly high, tough, too bad. So
it is.
Yeah, I mean, and I just again, this is why we always harp on efficiency in agronomic programs, because gone are the days when you can just throw it down and keep on throwing it down, even though you're not getting your return on investment, because I know that mentality arrived at a time when fertilizer was cheap. Well, guess what? It ain't cheap anymore.
Well, and it goes both ways, right? There are folks that bought up a lot of materials right as prices were rising, right? So bought low as the market was rising, and this is just the inverse effect. You're going to see this in any other pricing scenario anywhere else, right, in the world right now. Is as things return to earth, there is inventory that's held that has to be sold at what it was bought at, and that's just the way it's going to be. So, hey, listen, the great lawn care YouTube philosopher Ron Henry once said, put down as much as you can afford, and that's the way. Sell out of that inventory, boys, so we can get the lower price inventory in here and move some shit.
Yeah, apply all of it that you can afford to apply. Prospect of ban, speaking of not being able to afford shit, prospect of ban on gas-powered lawn equipment draws pushback in South Portland. Ha! Wow! Lord have mercy.
Wait. Now listen. South Portland, just so everybody is aware, Portland,
is.
I know you know. I think it's Ray. Ray, do you know about South Portland?
Not really. Please educate me, Ryan.
So South Portland, Maine, just below to the south of Portland, Maine, was one of the first and probably most publicized, I shouldn't say it's first, but one of the first real high-profile complete pesticide bans within a community in the United States here back in 2016. So it is banned everywhere. Golf courses, athletic fields, the whole bit. We've done a couple of talks about some of their practices and some of that. There's been a lawn care company that was fined a little while ago. So interesting. I'm interested to hear this article because they're taking another step. Let's hear it, Matt.
Yeah, well, already everybody's feeling inflation right now, and I know the numbers are only 6%, but if anybody can look at their weekly or monthly budgets and see prices only increasing 6%, let's talk, because that would just be, I'd gladly take 6% over compared to what my monthly expenses have gone up over the last 2 years. Anyway, Kenny Roberts, who manages CKC Landscaping, said his profit margin would absolutely evaporate if he had to use commercial electric mowers that can cost twice as much as gas-powered equipment. I'd have to stop mowing in South Portland. It's going to hurt everybody, as the price of your lawn mowed is going to go up. And so basically everybody's kind of wigging out because, who does this end up affecting by enacting a ban on gasoline powered lawn equipment, especially if they push it too eco-friendly too far too soon, right? Well, it ends up hurting the people who are middle lower income, right? And I'll say this, even I'll say upper middle class is not always ready to swing an $800 electric mower, right? Especially if you have an acre where you may need to free up a little bit more than the time than what it takes to push mow an acre and a half of land, right? And you're like, man, I would really love just a simple ride-on mower that I could do it. Well, if you get one that's electric, good luck. You're going to get it for $3, $4, $5, $10,000, and then it is what it is. And then you start looking at people that have landscaping companies, and the fascinating thing is that about a lot of these landscaping companies is that if they're gross, think about it. At $35 a cut, how many cuts do you have to put in through the course of a year to generate $100,000 in revenue? That's a shitload of cuts. In fact, let's go ahead and do the math on that. I'm feeling math froggy here. $100,000 divided by 35, you're at almost 3,000 cuts on the year that you have to perform, right? And then your margins on top of that, right? How much time is it going to take you to cut 3,000 lawns?
Time's up. It's over.
Now you think about that, the equipment that you have invested in and been making payments on for this point all go away. And now you have to take your $18,000 gas mower and convert it into a $35,000 gas mower. And what's your return on investment at that? At $35 a cut. 3,000 cuts a year, right? So this is a very, very significant amount of change that's going to be enacted here. I'm always interested in what's best for the environment, for my workers, and for my customers, said Branford, whose company also mows lawns in South Portland and Scarborough. I think these are very good intentions. I don't know that the technology is ready. California has started this already, and Branford suggests South Portland phase in any restrictions, focusing on residents first, allowing commercial operations to test the viability of electric equipment. The owner of Sweet Pea Lawn Care agreed, but he said he supports a ban wholeheartedly. I'm an environmentalist at heart, and I'm all for saving the planet. He started a one-person operation in 2017 using all-electric equipment. He upgraded the commercial mower in 2020, paying $18,000 compared to the $10,000 he would have for the gas mower. I can't exactly charge my customers double what others charge, but he makes other business decisions that keep his costs down, like limiting his customer base to South Portland, Cape, and Scarborough, which limits travel time and expenses. He suggests the city start with residents and focus on small equipment like leaf blowers and weed trimmers, then move on to mowers and eventually include commercial operators. He also recommended extending rebates and other incentives to landscaping companies that buy electric equipment. It's funny when you talk to the business owners in this, you seem to have a more practical approach towards the word you use that I think is just, or the phrase you use, DeMay, that I think is so applicable in just so many situations, is the velocity of change, right? And it's interesting hearing from the business owners scale back the velocity of change for some more common sense approaches. And so, look, offer some incentives, offer some rebates, and let's start equipment by equipment and slowly, gradually work our way up into something that looks more at scale. And that could potentially offer, some solutions to the pitfalls we may encounter along the way. So there it is. Listen to your local business owners.
My question is, Matt, with this grand change, will homeowners and consumers be willing to settle for less?
If you start with just enacting this in the residential market, right? How many people are going to go? How many people have cash right now to go out and drop $500, $400 on?
No, I'm not even talking about the equipment.
On an equipment set.
No, I'm not even talking about the equipment. What I'm talking about is the prospect of their properties, their homes, no longer being as kept up. Because you take away all of this equipment designed to quickly and efficiently maintain all of these properties, something's got to give. And what's going to give is unmowed lawns and a a lot more trash and debris and leaves on the ground. I mean, how is that going to square with the homeowners themselves? And I think, and I'm guessing that somebody or some people, the light bulb went off in their head and they realized no more mowers, no more blowers. My property is going to look like shit. Okay?
Well,
my property's going to look like shit. I mean, I still say my invitation to all of these environmental extremists is, okay, you get your fucking ass out there with the rake and with the grass clippers, and you do what you expect other people to do. Go do it. Show me.
Seriously, real talk. And DeMay, I know you're a bit more optimistic in these types of conversations, and it's, I really have no opinion either way. But I can just say, purely from a consumer standpoint, under no fucking circumstance am I going to allocate $500 to electric lawn maintenance equipment right now. Not a chance. If I have a spare $500 right now, I'm going to put it towards my kid's education fund or something else, because I'm not going to do it. And if it's an all-out ban, guess what? I'm going to be the weirdo out there in the middle of the night with a halogen light fucking doing it with my gas-powered equipment. And if someone calls the law on me, then I'm going to bark at whoever shows up and tell them to get off my fucking lawn. I'm just not going to allocate that capital right now. It's too much. There's too much economic uncertainty, and I don't feel confident enough about what things are going to look at over the next 5, 10, 15 years. And, it's like, for instance, again, in my opinion right now, and this is just purely my opinion, cash is king, and I would rather sit on more of it than less of it right now, regardless of what laws or regulations are enacted at the consumer level.
Yeah. And I would go even one step further, Matt. In that, should I be faced with something like this, Matt? You know what I would invest in? Concrete. All the grass, all the trees.
Environmentally friendly?
No, all the grass, all the trees, all the crap, all of that is gone. No more vegetation. Okay? No more. Because the expectation at the end of the day is that properties be clean. That's the expectation. And especially in, my market, my area, that is the expectation. So it's interesting how, as politically correct Hawaii is, there has never been any successful moves towards getting rid of gas-powered equipment here.
Give me the optimistic approach here, DeMay. What are we overlooking?
I mean, I don't know what. I really think, again, it's the unintended consequences. We've talked about this all the time with bans. There's always somebody that's left in a lurch, and I'm in agreement with you that the velocity of change needs to slow down a little bit, allow some time for people to drop, incentivize the behavior that you want to see, right? Just don't have some unfunded mandate that says that, well, you've got to do this or else, right? Everybody with a gas stove, like me, are gonna have to put an electric in. I don't know, and it's not to get into a political debate. It's just the idea that there are ways to do this. There's the way that the world works, right? The way the business works, the way the capital allocation. I don't care if you talk about your personal budget or, if you are a business owner, you understand that, right? Like there are things that you have to do and maintain and everything like that. But a seismic shift in the way that you operate that is completely, a complete shift, and it's mandated, right? That you do it with no thought or rhyme or reason or anything like that to how you're going to do it. I understand the why. I get that part of it, but what are you gaining, right? Are you putting people out of business, right? And potentially, I will say that, right? To Ray's point, you want to take a big picture look at it, and I'll be a little dystopian, a little bit pessimistic on this front, is how many people just throw their hands up, from a professional sense and just say, fuck it, I'm out. Like, I'm not doing that.
I know people that sold their businesses with the COVID lockdown in states that had more extreme lockdowns, literally sold their businesses and moved to other states. And it's not one. I know multiple people that fled the Northeast, moved down south, and are sitting on their NDA, and they're ready to go again. In fact, they're working at other companies, and they're talking about how great it is to be exposed to the culture of the South and learn from it, and then to be able to partner with someone else and do it all over again, right? And they're excited to do it because it's a completely different market. It's a completely different field than what they were accustomed to. And if the government is going to put them out of business, then they're going to redo it better the way they wanted to originally.
Yeah, you see, what I also foresee happening is the states that go into this. Okay, first of all, there was COVID, and the flight from the states that were overzealous about COVID. Well, you know what I foresee, Matt? I foresee a lot of people getting the bloody hell out of states that pull something like that, because I told you guys too, the second that Hawaii successfully passes anything that resembles a total pesticide ban, then I am definitely gone. I'm out of here. That's it.
I think it comes down the fundamental question that has to be asked at the end of the day is a ban really the appropriate approach? I don't know. I don't think so. I think the market could do a better job at determining that. Right? It's South Portland. We know that there's the reason why there was a pesticide ban was that there were enough people agreed to it, right? And so if it is the nature of the business there, and you advertise yourself as a company that offers electric lawn services, then that may be all you need to differentiate yourself, and it's eventually going to drive out the people that use gas-powered equipment, and except for the people that can't afford the electric lawn services, right? And so it kind of creates these two different market segments. One will be bigger than the other, and the market tends to take care of itself. I fail to see how an outright ban is going to solve this, but that's a philosophical question, not necessarily one of policy here. The last one here is Ukraine farmers stalled, fueling fears of global food shortages. Reuters coming in with the thunder here. The Ukraine war is still ongoing here, and guess what? A national wheat harvest on which millions in the developing world would depend is struggling because they can't feed these crops. Soon, far fewer of the so-called tillers will sprout. The wheat was planted last autumn, which after a brief growing period fell dormant for the winter. Before the grain returns to life, however, farmers typically spread fertilizer that encourages growth, but they are short of fertilizer as well as pesticides and herbicides. And should this fail, again, we talked about this last year and we're seeing it again. And here's the other thing is that I have y'all been paying attention to what's been going on with people that grew wheat this year in the U.S. in the wheat growing regions? Not a good year for wheat at all. Especially, and this is even weirder, and we'll have to cover this for another day. In fact, this may be like a full Thirsty Thursday deep dive, is the no-till acres of wheat seem to have fared worse than the tilled acres of wheat. And I've kind of been collecting some data on that, and no one has flat out said why this has happened, and I'm not even seeing a lot of speculation as to why. It's just acres being reported as no-till or conventional, and the no-till acres are struggling for whatever reason at an equal degree as the tilled acres are. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing through and through, and something we'll certainly most cover. Boys, I just want to say real quick, like we talked about to start off this podcast, we are also on all your favorite podcast episodes. You can see our Thirsty Thursday there. You can see all of our Burn and Return episodes, wherever you like to listen to podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Apple, Google, whoever, whatever. Check it out, because it's an easy way to throw it into the headphones while you're out spraying lawns or firing up the battery-powered sprayer or whatever it is, however you get it done, and tune in right along while we spew the different things that we have to spew about. Because, as silly as we can be, I promise that there's a lot of valuable information that we're going to be putting out there as well too. So hopefully you will check it out. And if you want to be on the inside of what we have going on, check us out, patreon.com/burn and return. That's where if you want to interact with Ryan, if you want to interact with Ray, if you want to interact with me, hop on over there. And then not only that, we have a community of people that are just like you, that are super into this. And they give a shit, and they give a shit about all the things that you do, and you will be stunned. Science. And they're going to come from every different form, facet, faction that you could possibly imagine. But the beautiful thing is that what we're all united on is the passion of when it comes to growing plants. And it does seem to be more turf centered, but although there's definitely people that enjoy growing a lot of. Well, look at Derek growing all his peppers down there in Texas, right? And he's not the only one. So anyway, check it out, patreon.com/burnandreturner. Check us out on all your favorite podcast apps as well too. Gentlemen, let's go ahead and jump into this week's Joe Knows Turf.
Joe Knows Turf. Hi, I'm Joe. I'm gonna give you a bunch of accurate turf facts today because Joe knows turf.
Joe does know turf, and I don't. Is there still sadness going on there? Is he okay? Do we need to check in on him? I'm worried. As far
as I know, he's fine.
I felt like we were doubling down on the 5 stages of grief, part 2. But I don't know. Maybe he snorted a line of oxytocin there and feeling a little bit better. But who is being featured on this week?
Well, it's funny you say that because we want to thank Joe, and again, plug his new show with our friend Travis. That's the anti Thirsty Thursday, the anti Burn and Return. If you hate, I say it with all the love and affection in my possible heart. Is possible in my heart is if you hate us, you will love them. All right, so go and check them out. If you're still watching this 48 minutes into our show, God bless you. Get the fuck out of here and just go listen to this, guys, okay? Now on today's Joe Knows Turf, one of the things that's been brought up is that maybe we're a little too hard on homeowners and hobbyists and DIYers and everything like that. We don't go after pros. Well, one was sent in here, gentlemen, that I wanted to take a look at, get a little bit of your opinion on, number one, but also maybe point out a few things that we can teach our pros and make sure that, before the season gets started, right? These are like the last few practices before you really get going, right, for the regular season. And want to make sure everybody's all on the same page. So, J-Pink, go ahead and slide into about, maybe 30 seconds into this video, and let's get started with our friends over at Acme.
Yesterday was my first, and I fell in love with it. So far, I love the spraying a lot more than the mowing. It's super fun riding this.
You and me both.
Lean to spray, Z sprayer. I mean, lean to steer, spray, Z sprayer. Super fun, like I said, and I'm out of chemical, so I'm gonna mix these chemicals up, and you guys are gonna be my witnesses that I know I can remember by myself how much of each chemical that I'm supposed to use. And today we're using Ranger Pro Roundup instead of the Roundup Concentrate, which means that we're gonna be using more, because if we were using Roundup Concentrate for the 20-gallon sprayer, we would be using 40 ounces of the Roundup Concentrate, but since it's Ranger Pro, we're gonna use 64 ounces.
Pause.
So
is that 2 quarts an acre?
Just to let you know, these folks are in Oklahoma City area in the general vicinity.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here we go.
Doing it 2 quarts per acre on dormant Bermuda grass in OKC. Okay.
Set you guys up, and you guys are gonna watch me fill my sprayer up.
All right, buddy.
Okay. First things first. Okay. We're going to use a little bit of, the first thing we use is we mix them up first, actually. And then we use the Resolute. And we use...
For diamine, for those of you scoring at home.
24 ounces of this.
Oh boy, I'm cringing already.
I know you are, Ray. I know.
Okay.
I am cringing. Let me explain why.
Sure, that's 24.
Is that Resolute?
It's definitely.
Yeah, that's Resolute. That's,
Yeah, what
that's
label that
prodiamine flowable. Yeah.
A little bit.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I did not see that. I did not see that. Man.
Perfect.
No.
So
Not perfect
after we get
at
done
all.
using the Resolute, 24 ounces of Resolute. This is all for a 20-gallon sprayer. So after these 24 ounces,
What is your rate per acre on your 20-gallon sprayer? The answer is Z spray. Oh, please pour right into that.
Yeah.
Don't flush it. Please don't flush it.
Okay. After the 24 ounces of Resolute,
Yes. Yes.
64 ounces of Strike 3.
That's right. And we are making the assumption, we are assuming here. We are assuming the spray's 20 gallons to the acre because that's what it said in the manual.
Yeah, recalibrated.
And there is certainly no variation between these at all. It is a heavy 2.5. Careful. Here. Oh man, I was puckered beehole there for a second.
No, I am still cringing, Matt. I'm still totally cringing. Because
Ray, when I saw this, I knew this was going to be the hardest for you out of everybody here. Okay. Oop. This is when you're the bartender and you know that you want to get this guy extra hammered. All right.
This is the bartender of lawn care approach.
Oh, no, she just wiped the glove. She wiped the glove on the ground. Now for pause. Pause. Now for the audio folks, because we have NateKrez the podcast.
Oh yeah.
Let us set the scene here for you. All right. So this nice young lady, it seems like it's one of her first days on the sprayer. I don't know, she didn't talk about her training or anything like that. So she is in the front yard of a customer. She is between their front fence and the truck, which is on the curb right next to her.
Yeah, it looks like she's in the hell strip.
Yeah, the hell strip. I don't see a sidewalk there, but it's just an open grass area. Bunch of leaves and debris all around, some dormant grass. So she's literally mixing on top of the soil, the grass right there on the lawn at the customer's place with concentrated material. All right,
and
so that's the scene. And
that's
go
the
ahead,
scene.
Ray.
And she's pouring into a measuring cup without any kind of secondary containment underneath that measuring cup, because the way I was trained is secondary containment, secondary containment, secondary containment. So in other words, like
have it in a
if I were to
bucket
be,
or something.
yeah, like if I were to be pouring into a measuring cup and my measuring cup is not sitting in the strainer basket of my sprayer mat, I have a 5-gallon bucket that the measuring cup is sitting inside of. Do you know why?
In case it gets knocked over, because when the first glug from the pour comes out, it can, especially on soil, grass covered ground where it's a little spongy, and it can definitely make for an uneven surface to pour into. The potential. How long? I'm giving it another day or two before one of these is partially filled and gets knocked over.
Yeah, and then, okay, I'm also going to set another scene in that this young lady is handling pesticide concentrates. She does not have liquid-proof, chemical-resistant gloves.
No.
She does not have proper eye protection.
No.
And she also does not have a liquid-proof apron. And do you know why I bring up the liquid-proof apron, Matt?
The label says so.
Yeah, and not only that, like at least in my state, the Hawaii Department of Ag comes around, audits you, and if you do not have, or if they cannot prove that you used a liquid-proof apron when you were handling pesticide concentrates, guess what they do to you? They write you the fuck up because it's obvious that you don't know what you're doing.
I thought they were going to say take it over to the neighbor's house with the dog.
It is obvious, right? She said this is their second day doing chemical applications, and it's obvious. It's obvious there's no formal training. I'm highly questioning whether there's even a certification or a license that has been applied for at this point. And it's especially given the rates of Ranger Pro, there is no formal training in
calculating a rate.
Spraying it. Yeah.
Yeah, like looking at the label and doing the math.
Because, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but normally when you spray glyphosate concentrate on dormant Bermuda, your rates are riding between 16 to 32 ounces per acre. Am I right?
And we'll get into that. Let's go just a little bit longer here for I don't know 10 maybe go to the I don't know fast forward like 3 minutes or something.
The Ranger Pro stuff. Go to the Ranger Pro. Let's watch you mix that up.
What is Mystic HC? Is that a coloring?
Blue coloring.
Dye.
Okay.
Blue coloring, Matt.
Oh my God! Is he spraying?
Yes.
Oh my God! He sprayed right up to her.
Yes, man.
Oh,
absolutely.
Man. So she's mixing the concentrates. Old boy is on another Z spray machine. Apparently, they're tag teaming this lawn, and he sprays up to within, I don't know, 24 to 36 inches of her. And if you've ever seen the spray pattern out of a Z spray, that's a fine enough spray solution that I would not want to be that close to it. Now, again, I've said it before, and I'll say this again. I have reeled in a hose and knocked the gun off my hose while I was spraying Simazine, Tri-Power, and I think potash. And I took 160 psi right to the face and open mouth of said mixture. Went to bed that night and woke up the next morning and had shit my bed. Unbelievable volumes of waste out of my body. Again, it's something I'm a little careful of about being sprayed by someone else doing that. Okay, we'll get into this real quick. And what happened with mixing the glyphosate, DeMay?
Oh, just the rate. So let's unpack.
She said 64 ounces, where Roundup she would use 40, 64 because this is Ranger Pro. And you do have various AI concentrations of between Roundup, but most formulations you're going to see is a 4 pounds of active ingredient per gallon. So that would be the same rate, apples to apples all the way across. Now, the other thing too is that J-Pink, if you don't mind, pull up this article here from Turf Files, and it talks about winter glyphosate applications of Bermuda grass. And it talks about using 1 pint per acre on dormant Bermuda grass. But one of the things they did, if you go down a little ways, they talk about spraying greened up Tifway Bermuda grass. This is going to be partially greened up. And what you see is 9 days and 24 days after treatment, the delay onset it has on the green up at various rates, right? Of going from 8 ounces all the way up to 32 ounces versus the control, right? And you do see a pretty significant knockback as you move up to 32 ounces per acre. Now at 64 ounces per acre, that's going to be even more exaggerated. And I will say this, at 64 ounces per acre, even on dormant Bermuda grass, you know it. It is not going to green up. It will eventually, but it is going to be a significantly delayed green up.
It's going to be late, isn't it?
And it will give you a puckered asshole factor when you're driving down the neighborhood and everybody has green grass and your lawn is not. And you're like, what in the holy fuck did I do? Now, my question is where did these rates come from? If I had to guess, these rates came from the supplier of said
chemical materials.
The chemical distributor, right? and I would say even more so, the person they bought that Z spray from, whichever distributor that was, is who also sold them the chemical, who's also gave them the rates per chemical, and also told them what the mix concentrations were to go in said sprayer that they bought from them as well. And I highly, highly, highly doubt that machine has been calibrated since it was purchased, as that is typically the more technical aspect of machine ownership. I'll tell you what, there is one thing I hope, and as much as the cynic in me wants to shit on this person top to bottom, left and right, but more so what I want to have happen is I want to watch and can we please bookmark this channel, because I want to watch the emotional meltdown that occurs over the course of this year when those lawns do not green up correctly, and see how well that is handled versus the level of training and experience they have, because they're literally throwing themselves to the wolves here and have no idea they're doing it. And this will be a learning moment for all involved.
Okay, and I got another little question for this person, or actually for Z-Spray owners in general. What happens when you pour a sick, poorly suspended material like prodiamine 4L straight into the tank of a Z-Spray? What happens? Because the reason why I ask is I'm spoiled. I'm a spoiled son of a bitch, because all of my sprayers have 500 psi jet agitation in the tank. Okay? So I throw a WDG or a suspension concentrate into the tank. In 1 minute, that mix is thoroughly blended, but I don't see any kind of blending or mixing action. And one more note, you know, when you have a measuring cup with something in it, you normally wash out that measuring cup into the sprayer after each product has been measured, so that you don't have all of that
gunk,
barricade puke all over the inside of the measuring cup. And also, regarding measuring cups, at least twice, this young lady poured something from the measuring cup back into the bottle. That is a huge, and I repeat, huge no-no. Especially if you're not in the habit of washing out your measuring cup after each product. I mean, this just begs for cross-contamination. And the way I learned this, of course, is not from, applicator training. It's because I spent at least a year of my life in an organic chemistry lab. And for goodness sakes, you don't pour anything back into its bottle or container, because if something goes wrong, guess what happens, Matt?
Up in your face.
Boom. Exactly.
I think the moral of the story here is, gentlemen, and the things that I wanted to highlight were, from a small picture up to a big picture, right? Poor mixing practices, right? Major safety issues, right? And Matt even caught one that I didn't even notice, with the guy pulling within 3 feet of her face with, full
running
flat
Z.
band
She's
nozzle
on her
pressure.
knees. I height, like
Eye
literally
level.
her face is eye level with the nozzles,
right there.
and he's within 3 feet of her. And in fact, that was just where we stopped the video. It could have been closer.
Yeah. So the other thing here too, and it's been pointed out several times in the comments here, that these lawns that they're applying, a herbicide to, in glyphosate, that they need, contact with volunteer winter weeds, right? For those that
leaf
actually work.
contact, yeah.
These lawns are completely covered with tree leaves, debris, stuff like that, right? So they haven't been blown off or anything like that to basically gain access to the grass where they actually need to spray. So just a lot of practices, right? And I think the moral of the story here, folks, is I don't care if you're a one-man band. It's okay to review this stuff. I don't care if you have 20 employees or anything in between, but you have got to have a training program. And you have to make sure that you should do spot checks, that you should make sure that these policies and these procedures are being adhered to, because there's too much at stake, right? There's too much at stake to make sure that this goes right. And boy, howdy, we just watched an 11-minute video, and there was so much that could have gone wrong, and God knows what happened outside of that. So I'm not going to rag on these people. I'm using them as an example of getting your shit together and doing a good job. And hey, maybe if these people want to learn, more than happy to help them out. Come on the show. Come talk to us. Wait, Matt, did you hear that?
Yeah.
That's the bus starting up. We're going to take their ass to school. The old
That's a big ass
wagon.
diesel.
Yep. The loser cruiser, as it was known. You didn't have a car, you had to ride the loser cruiser. All right. Let's jump into,
there it is.
Speaking of loser cruisers, how about those burns? Now, I do want to point this out that one of our loyal listeners, one of our patrons, Paul Smith, down there in the Carolinas, reached out to me this week and let me know that really did sound like him. That he was actually Sheila'd this past week, although it was a sweet 80-some-year-old woman that backed into him. Right, it was not some hot MILF, with a scorching case of herpes like Sheila. That rear-ended him. So you know what, Paul, I hope everything works out for you well. Hopefully your Sheila does not end up on our soundtrack. We'll just say that. Be her wheezing and looking for her portable nebulizer, something like that. I don't know. All right, going into the burns here, gentlemen. This isn't necessarily an article. JP, go ahead and pull up the link, and I want to talk a little bit about something. We're going back to the state of Maine, back to the place, the Fortress of Solitude, for again one of our loyal listeners in Jesse Bousquet, his favorite place on earth, I think, or one of, anyway. So what's going on up there right now is they passed this law last year that is requiring all of their pesticides to be registered in a different way this year, that causes vendors for all the things that are trade secret. And Matt can talk a little bit about this too, about how the confidential statement of formula works in most cases with fertilizers and things like that. However, they're asking these companies now to list out all of the things. So there's nothing that can be trade secret now with these, because they are looking for PFAS and they're looking for other chemicals that are in these formulations, right, that could potentially be hazardous. And as a result, right now, we've got several major chemical manufacturers that are choosing not to register their products. And gentlemen, would you believe if I would tell you that names like Syngenta, Corteva, Dow, Loveland, and PBI Gordon all have a deadline to register of Tuesday at the end of business. And if they don't, then their pesticides cannot be sold. Any pesticides that are taken and bought by distributors after the 21st of this month will not be allowed to be sold. They'll be able to sell out of their inventory that they have left in stock, and then after that, nothing for the remainder of the year. So, in effect, a couple things are happening here. The other part of this bill, too, is that adjuvants now have to be labeled as pesticides, meaning you have to do the exact same thing, right, to report all of your ingredients and go through the same labeling process, whether it's a wetting agent, a spreader sticker, anything like that, that normally under most state circumstances, you wouldn't have to do that for those items, right? So they've raised the bar, and in effect, with the PFAS thing, have basically kind of done a backdoor ban on pesticides here, gentlemen. So without doing it and preempting it like what, we talked about a little bit here with, Portland and some of the other places that have just outright banned it, they've kind of taken an end run around to say, well, listen, we're going to raise the bar so high that even Syngenta, ChemChina, right, and everybody else is like, nope, fuck it, we're out. Not doing it. Don't care.
Yeah.
That's a big, big deal. So again, no article or anything like that. This is all coming from industry sources and folks that I know over there and friends of friends. Just trying to highlight some of the things that are going on. And again, I think the scary part here, gentlemen, is that this is very much a blueprint of what might take place in other locations. So be wary. And I don't know, I'm honestly not sure at this juncture what we can do about it.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll say about this is that because I have no idea how this is going to shake out. This is going to be something to keep an eye on because it's the first time it's being enacted, right? So it's just we'll have to watch and see. But I can say that from a product formulation standpoint, a lot of the things that you're keeping secret has to do with how you get something to stay together. Whether it's a liquid, how do you get it to remain in total solution? Or if it's suspension, how do you keep the material in that fully suspended? Or if it's a granular, how do you keep that granule to hold together? Is it naturally binding, or are you adding an inert binder to go along with it? And I can tell you that most of those times you're not using toxic substances to be able to do that. You're using, various different acids and or bases, and getting creative with it. Sometimes maybe you have to use sodium hexametaphosphate or something, which is just going to be really bizarre. But in no way it would be a differentiator between you being able to make a product hold together and then someone else not being able to make it hold together. And you don't want to list it on a label because it gives up how you're able to do it. And 99% of the other people can't do it, right? So anyway, it just sucks. It absolutely sucks. So I will keep an eye on it. I have a feeling that we are going to see a major exodus from Maine, and how that plays out, I don't know. I'll keep an eye on it. That is for sure. The other ones here that I did want to talk about is if anybody has seen in the news, especially with spring break here and the Tampa Bay area, well, red tide is there. It's back. And whenever we see red tide, what is the major consensus is that, well, phosphorus and nitrogen are in the waterways. And we're seeing greater and greater restrictions on phosphorus all over the place, right? I mean, we just saw Pennsylvania just enact a new phosphorus ban, unless it's from organic sources, because remember, organic phosphorus doesn't count, right? But as these more and more phosphorus bans are coming forward, now, of course, we're seeing what happens. We're getting the reinforcement from the news to say that this is good, and we have no idea why this keeps happening. We need tighter and tighter phosphorus regulations in order to help us out, because and anyway, why we need tighter and tighter phosphorus regulations is red tide. It's all the spills and contamination of waterways and phosphageddon. We have phosphageddon on, and this shows up in the news every, I don't know, year, I guess, where what is it that in 30 years we're going to run out of phosphorus, right? That is the typical consensus that we see here, and it may not even be 30 years. Sometimes it's 2 years, sometimes it's 7 years, sometimes it's 99 years. But all in all, phosphorus is a finite resource, and we're going to run out of it. Well, the crazy thing is that we also recycle a metric shit ton of phosphorus, and so I think Ray can attest to this, is that we are not going to run out of phosphorus anytime soon, especially given the tighter and tighter regulations we're seeing on it, right? And so yeah, rock phosphate reserves are drying up. We're going down. We're fucked. We're going to run out of phosphorus, and we need phosphorus. All the humans in the world, we need phosphorus to live, but we're going to regulate the holy out of it so we can end the dead zones, Matt, and all this. Yeah,
I have an idea as to where a lot of that phosphorus and nitrates are coming from. From
Mother
Florida.
Jones? Oh, where's that?
No. You see, Florida has a lot of sugarcane, fruits, and vegetables. Growing. And the Florida Environmental Department is not exactly crawled up their asses about what they do versus how they harass and scrutinize turf managers in Florida.
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of interesting in that I kind of understand the other side of the grower mentality in that they're going to do whatever they think they got to do to get as much yield as they can out of that acre of land. Okay? They're going to do it. And if that means feeding heavy, guess what, Matt? They're going to feed heavy. So
basically, what I'm hearing from you is that lawn care is the problem. Therefore, we need more regulations in lawn care. Is that what you said?
No, we actually need to look at. Yeah, I know you're funning me.
Yeah.
We need to actually look at what all of the agricultural operations are doing in Florida. That's what needs to be looked at, actually.
And we're not, because look, lawn care is the bastardized stepchild of agriculture, and so we will always pay for the sins of Big Brother, whatever the case may be. And just to highlight on this Mother Jones article, and again, we saw the Guardian say that phosphageddon is here, and now, of course, Mother Jones wants to play in it, and they are just backpaging on it. And in fact, if you type in phosphageddon in Google right now, you'll just see it over and over and over and over, and you can go back years and years and years of the same repeat article just showing up all over the place. Look, as you start getting into six, if you go to page like 227,000, you'll see it probably from like 22 years ago. They're probably saying the same thing, right? And so it is what it is. Just be out there when you hear it. Understand that, look, there is some validity, 100% validity, that we do need to be extremely careful and cognizant and specific with our approach of phosphorus. We should be the leaders in that space, because we're the ones that have to pay the biggest price for it. And so the more that we can stand up and stand out and show how to be responsible with it, it only makes us look better, and we can encourage each other all to do that. And part of us encouraging each other to do better with that is to also point out the fact that just replacing phosphorus with an organic source isn't enough. In fact, that's worse. You're not solving any issue by making the transition from ammonium phosphate to poultry litter, and therefore thinking it's okay to go ahead and apply within 3 feet of a body of water because it's organic, or apply directly into a body of water because it's organic. That is a bad thing always around, and therefore we should hold each other accountable for that. And again, get away from this idea that if it's organic, therefore it must be good. That is not the case. If you honestly believe that, go. Do not do this, but go look at the LD50 of copper sulfate, for Christ's sake. Don't spill any on your hands. Don't drink any of it, because it is incredibly toxic. And but you know what? It is the poster child of all things that are organic, and it will kill you quickly. And we'll get into this last one here, because again, I hate to say this, is there a war on lawns? It is really hard not to pretend like there isn't one. Because it just, man, it's everywhere you go. It's inescapable. And again, the onus is on us to do better, to be better educated, to be able to talk about it. Because here we have, do clover lawns have actual pros? Here's what a Sacramento expert thinks of the trend. Swapping out grass lawns for water-saving alternatives has become new normal, but instead of trading your lawn for turf, have you ever considered clover? It's a TikTok and Reddit thing now, so bring it on. Masterclass, an online education system, which I'm sure is just absolutely phenomenal, has also designated a class giving green thumb enthusiasts a play-by-play to starting their very own clover lawn. The benefits: it's low maintenance, it's a huge pollinator, and it requires significantly less water. The drawbacks: it attracts a high number of bees, which, if you've got children, they're going to get stung. And the aesthetics, well, it just doesn't look that very good. And if you have a high traffic area, it's going to you're going to have a dirt yard. So, it doesn't sound very applicable to the types of people that are regularly enjoying lawns, which are going to be people that have children or that are out there actually utilizing it. If we look at the average age and demographic of the people that are in our community, they either have children that enjoy their lawn or they enjoy their lawn being out in it themselves, right? And it's funny, we're all in kind of that same age range, and we like to do things outdoors. And whether you have kids or not, you enjoy being out there in it, walking around in it, working in it, getting from point A to point B in it. Maybe you like to play the old cornhole out there in it, or whatever the case may be. The point is that it serves function as well as aesthetic, right? And but you know, if you want to try clover lawn, by all means, I'm not going to shit on you for it. That's fine. But understand there are going to be drawbacks to it too, especially if you have kids that want to go out there and use it and play soccer on it, and they're constantly trudging mud holes into the ground at a greater or quicker extent than it would be if you had actual grass. But then also the fact that they're being stung by bees all the time, and then well, hey, but look, we're doing our part to save the planet with this giant fucking mud hole, and then the bee stings, right? That's all. Because what kills bees quicker? Having an actual grass lawn or them stinging you? Because as far as I know, which I'm not a bee expert, but I feel like if they sting you and their stinger lodges in you, it rips their guts out and they fucking die, if I recall correctly. So yeah,
they do, Matt.
Good luck killing all the bees.
And I have one more little thought on this: is that unfortunately, I know that a significant number of the population is violently allergic to bee stings. And this is not just a childhood thing.
Oh, yeah, carrying that.
I know adult. Yeah, I know. I mean, these people, if they get stung by a bee under any circumstance, you're going to end up jamming the EpiPen in their leg, and you're going to be feeding them Benadryl until the ambulance comes. Don't ask me how I know, okay? Don't ask me how I know that.
We are way over time, so we're going to go ahead and jump into this week's returns. La 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 la.
I'm back.
DeMay, take this one too, please.
Oh, sure.
The Keanu Reeves.
The what?
The Keanu Reeves.
Oh, you want me to do that one? Oh, sure. Oh,
yeah.
Are you above reading that? Is that
no? Because this is.
All right, I'll read it.
Perfect for you.
All right, here we go. So, scientists named a fungicide after Keanu Reeves because it's extremely effective at killing, just like his character. Like John Wick, new compounds discovered by scientists are effective killers. But instead of killing bad guys, they kill fungi. Researchers at Lebanese Institute for Natural Product Research and Infection Biology in Germany found certain bacteria naturally contained compounds effective at killing fungi that affects plants and humans. Scientists named them keanomycins A, B, and C after the actor Keanu Reeves. The three keanomycins, lipopeptides, and bacteria of Pseudomonas genus, commonly found in soil and water, were isolated by scientists who tested their deadly properties. They found the compounds got rid of amoebas and fungi. Lipopeptides kill so efficiently that we named them after Keanu Reeves because he, too, is extremely deadly in his roles. The study's main author, Sebastian Gotzi, in a press release. Scientists released their findings in the Journal of American Chemical Society in January. Let's see here. So they talk about some of the things that they're effective in killing, which is gray mold rot, which is really, really impactful on wine grapes and strawberries. So they're trying to use that. They're also trying to find out what they might be able to do in crops and other crops here to target and be a little bit more precise with these particular keanomycins. So, gentlemen,
my favorite though is its ability at treating the human pathogenic fungus responsible for the Sheila infection, also known as the yeast infection. Kudos to Keanu Reeves for not just killing people, but yeast infections.
Okay, here's my little question about this brand new novel biologically derived fungicides, because I remember up until the 1980s, there was actually a biologically derived fungicide called cyclohexamide. And do you know what the problem with cyclohexamide was?
I don't.
That shit will kill you. Okay, it was a very effective fungicide for leaf spot and rust and brown patch on turfgrass, for example. But my God, the LD50 on that stuff was single digit. And so, of course, naturally, with safer products coming around, that got quietly yanked from the market and nobody missed it. Just because it's naturally derived doesn't mean it's necessarily better.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say there's a lot of work, and I think it'll be cool to watch this all evolve. Naming it after your favorite movie character. I mean, there's a lot of history and
also
astronomy and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
the wizard.
Yeah, just because it's natural, because there is an antifungal antibiotic in current use right now called amphotericin B, and that too, it works on otherwise untreatable fungal infections in humans. However, I guess a couple milligrams too much, and you just killed the patient.
Well, if you're a fan of death, boy, we have left nothing for you to desire with this episode. We had wood chippers and antifungal medications that will end you really quick. But I think the one thing that is shocking to everyone, and I saw this Times article, and it was actually pretty high up there on a couple news sites. The Dutch pro-farmer party sweeps elections, upsetting the status quo. And if you have not followed what's going on over there, this is, you have the nitrogen reduction and repurposing of family farms, being acclimated and redistributed amongst the populace, and all kinds of strange things that are taking place in and around the Netherlands right now in regards to farming. And this is where you saw videos coming out of ranchers and other animal raisers with truckloads full of manure sludge and just spraying it into the atmosphere at the pro government people that are interested in passing this. And it was one of the most phenomenal things I had ever seen as far as a farmer uprising. Whether you agree with them or not, you have to admire the set of testicular fortitude it took to do something like that. And I hope they are investing in that Keanu Reeves fungicide, because whatever yeast infections may be showing up after spraying with that much manure is you're going to need all the Pseudomonas that you can get. A small pro-farmers party swept provincial elections in the Netherlands to become the biggest in the Senate by channeling wide dissatisfaction with the Dutch government and sharp challenge to Prime Minister Mark Rutte's administration. The results put the party, the Farmer Citizen Movement, which has fewer than 11,000 members, according to its website, on track to become a major player in a government body that approves or rejects legislation that comes out of the House of Representatives. Some Dutch voters said they viewed the party's success as a victory against the country's elites as well as the government. They said it showed support for the preservation of rural life in the Netherlands and the farming economy in particular. Though voters from all parts of the country, including suburban areas, supported the party. But the victory could make it difficult for Mr. Rutte's government to pass a strict law to cut nitrogen emissions in the Netherlands by 50% by 2030 to fight climate change and place it in line with the European Union requirements to preserve nature reserves. The Prime Minister's party, which does not have a majority in the Senate or the House, needs a coalition vote to pass laws. The Pro-Farmers Party, known by its Dutch acronym BBB, opposes the plan, saying it could imperil farmers' operations in the country renowned for its agricultural industry. To reach the government's emission reduction goals, thousands of farmers would have to significantly reduce the number of their livestock and the size of their operations, farmers and their supporters say. If they cannot help meet the government's target, they may have to close down their operations altogether. Mr. Rutte, who is not up for re-election for a few more years, is one of Europe's longest-serving leaders, having been elected in 2010, called the results a scream at politics. Of course, a sitting president would say that. It's all politics. Anyway, it goes on to say they already couldn't ignore us, but now they definitely can. It's one thing to be sprayed in the face with a truck full of manure. It's another thing for them to actually be voted into political participation here. I'm pleasantly surprised. As farmers, we felt abandoned by the political society. However, guess what? We're back, bitches! And so anyway, it will be interesting to see how all this plays out. This is going to go on my things I did not expect to have happen bingo card, and will be pretty cool to watch how it plays out. Now, my question is that what we see here, where else will this be replicated in the world? You know, I think we've seen farmer-esque uprisings in other countries to date. I know Ireland was one of them. Of course, everything that goes on in Canada makes our news as well, given that they are our little brothers that in Canada. Eh? I love you, Mike Taylor, by the way. And all our Canadian brethren. It's just I like to shit on you because, well, I don't know, because I'm an asshole, a pompous asshole, as a matter of fact. Isn't that called being an American? I don't know. But case in point is this will be fun to watch nevertheless, and I am fucking here for it.
Matt, I think I understand how this came to be. The common citizens in the Netherlands realized what the actual unintended consequence would be of shutting down farmers, in that, I joked on the Discord this morning about how, okay, they make me start eating bugs or anything plant-based. I am going to be the one at the nation's capital storming the White House. I will. Easy. And
Ray's being indicted on Tuesday too.
But
hey, I will protest if you get indicted, Ray. I'll tell you that right now. I will be the angriest, drunkest redneck you have ever seen. I will have bottle of bourbon, of barrel-proof bourbon in hand, shouting obscenities at the top of my lungs.
But
shoot me, motherfucker!
But the whole point is that, can you imagine your average Dutch citizen being told, okay, no more cheese, no more butter, no more milk. It's all gone.
Well, because we have bugs for that, Ray, so it doesn't matter.
No, can you imagine that? I mean, because that is, I think, what actually happened, Matt, is people came to realize you shut down farmers like this. Our grocery store shelves are going to be bare, and whatever is there, remaining is going to be ridiculously and obscenely expensive. And
it won't be bare. It'll be imported from other countries with a lesser product, and then they're going to be like, hey, look, we're going to wash away your culture of being able to produce, these fine delicacies in favor of what we're able to mass produce somewhere incredibly cheap, and you will eat it.
Actually, no, Matt. The whole thing about food imports into places like the EU is that the EU is tremendously picky about what they'll even allow into the EU quality-wise. I mean, until they start starving, but then to this point, they're like,
and then all of a sudden, Kraft slices will be sold as Gier in the middle of the Netherlands. They'll be like, it's Kraft American cheese singlets, also known as Gier. Yeah, have fun with it. It's delicious. You'll love it. It's from the Alps. It's from the Alps of Appalachia.
Well, and funny you should joke about that, because something like a Kraft singles product is literally not admissible into the EU because of what's in it. Most of what's in it is considered is an illegal food additive.
What I think is fascinating about this is that this is a group of people who said, I will not participate in the facade of the lesser of two evils. We will get involved and we will make a difference, right? And I think that's inspiring for anyone who looks at whatever political climate is in front of them and say, I disagree with this and I disagree with that. I agree with some of this. I agree with some of that. and not being suckered into thinking, well, then I just have to choose from the lesser of two evils, right? And I think that has become the dominant stance of politics in the United States today. And that's why so many people are much closer than they realize, but oftentimes find them so far apart because they feel like they have to choose the lesser of two evils, and the evils that they choose to let slide by are no's from the other people. So it is what it is. But I think that this is inspiring, at least in that sense, and hopefully offers a set of balls for more people to stand up. I would love the opportunity to stand up, but the number of skeletons, well, flat out demons I have in my closet would ultimately obscure me from being able to do so. But kudos to these people for doing it. Real quick, let's check out this week's mailbag.
You've got mail.
We do have mail, and this one is from Greg M. Greg M says, is Let's Go Carbon Pro G Soil Optimixer worth the money and effort to use? Yes, you should second mortgage your house and continue to apply. And I say that facetiously. Reverse mortgage it, as a matter of fact. Reverse mortgage your family's houses too. And and what is that? A 22% loan on your HELOC right now? Get 4 of them, because fuck it. You need that much Carbon Pro G to go down. Look, we've talked about this a dozen times on the show. We had a Joe Knows Turf specific to this. And here's the thing, is that if you want to get into this wide world, there's a couple of questions that you need to ask. Ask the pyrolysis temperature, the residence time, the biomass, the composition of the compost that it was co-composted with. How do all of those affect your specific soil conditions? And if you can point out the positives that affect yours, not just because it's in the bag, but I'm talking about those individual variations and how they affect your soil composition, will tell you whether or not it's worth the money to use. Here's the thing, is that there's so much secrecy when it goes to what actually is made up in that whole thing, is that you'll never be able to find that answer. And until there's an overwhelming amount of transparency, so that way you can start to apply apples to apples of what makes sense to you and what doesn't make sense to you. First off, you're going to be limited to a small part of the United States that would even see a realized benefit from it. And even further is that, considering the other variables that are in it that are secret, you're not probably going to be able to figure that out. So you have a greater probability of being struck by lightning than you will be getting a return on investment of being able to apply that. So I apologize, but go back and check our Joe Knows Turf episode where we specifically talked about that. And what I would do is just walk away from it, because again, you're applying pounds of something to affect a furrow slice of soil that ultimately is millions of pounds. And at that type of rate of inclusion, you're probably not going to figure it out. There's other ways that you can use biochar to manipulate soil characteristics, and I'm not going to get into this here and now. I misstated that. There's probably no way that you're going to be able to apply biochar in a way that will have a meaningful impact on soil characteristics. There's ways that you can use biochar to manipulate nutrient availability, or even probably not even nutrient availability, but nutrient release characteristics. And that is in and of itself a whole nother shit show that has nothing to do with Carbon Pro G. And so your safest bet, your highest degree of probability by like 99.99999 to the power of pi of having good results with it is to the negative. So good riddance. All right, that is going to wrap up our episode for today. We're going to head over to the show after the show to let our patrons choose this week's episode. Don't forget, we're in podcast form on all your favorite podcast players. We love y'all. We'll see you on Thursday, where we have Dan, the motherfucking lawn man, coming on, and he's going to play ball with us down in SoFlo, and I'm sure we'll get an active lesson in St. Augustine, Heat, South Florida, Cuba, and all things that are good in the world. Love y'all. Bye.